Welcome to Alpha Kappa Psi's webinar titled Minimizing Risk During Recruitment. This webinar is a part of the Risk Management series. My name is Mackenzie Lauka, and I serve AK Psi as the Associate Director of Education. I will be your moderator today. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few logistics regarding the audio and web-based features of today's program. In order to verify attendance, you should have linked to the GoToWebinar meeting room through the web link provided in your confirmation email. To access the PowerPoint handout, as well as the supplemental documents available, click the plus sign next to Handouts on your screen. Click the name of the handout to download the file. This webinar will be advanced remotely. At the end of the program, I will explain how you can ask a question to any of our presenters. If you have a question throughout the program, feel free to type it into the question box on your screen or tweet it using the hashtag AKPsiChat. Your questions will be asked at the end of the program. Be sure to check out our social media content as well. Portions of today's program will be tweeted using the hashtag AKPsiChat. You may also find some valuable resources on the AKPsi blog, Facebook page, Instagram feed, LinkedIn page, Twitter feed, and our YouTube channel. This webinar has been created to discuss minimizing risk during recruitment. Recruitment is an exciting yet stressful time for chapters. Planning events and making sure everything goes off without a hitch isn't easy. How can we hold a recruitment that grasps potential members' interest yet stays in the lines of risk management? Today, we will learn how to have a successful and exciting process while minimizing risk for the chapter. In addition to covering these topics, we'll leave time for your questions and comments on the subject matter. For our program today, we have two presenters who are going to provide guidance and support while also provoking thoughts and awareness so you walk away from today's program with new insight on the topic. At this point, I'd like to introduce our presenters, Liz Vickers and Candy Williams. Liz Vickers is a graduate of Stetson University, where she was initiated as a member of the Theta Mu chapter. She graduated with a degree in finance and moved to Indianapolis in June 2014 to be an expansion coordinator for Alpha Kappa Psi. In January 2015, Liz became one of the chapter educational resource coordinators, where she works with Area 4, which includes the Atlantic Gulf Coast, Carolina Coastal, Southern Bluegrass, and Southern Delta regions. In her spare time, Liz enjoys traveling, hiking, reading, and watching her favorite television shows. She's also a member of the Zeta Tau Alpha Indy Alumni Association, where she's the Alumni Collegiate Relations Chair, and she advises the Zeta chapter at Purdue University. Thanks for joining us today, Liz. Our second presenter is Candy Williams. Candy joined the Pi chapter of Alpha Kappa Psi at Georgia State University in the fall of 1991. Here, she earned her Bachelor's of Business Administration and went on to earn her Master's at the University of Georgia in 1997. Candy also studied abroad at l'Université de Paris, Sorbonne, in Paris, France, and the University of Manchester in Manchester, England. Candy has since joined the Alpha Kappa Psi Atlanta Alumni Chapter and became a life-loyal member in 2012. Currently, she's the Manager of Talent and Organizational Development at Atlas Roofing Corporation in Atlanta, Georgia. Prior to Atlas, Candy worked in human resources at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta for 15 years. She is also the chapter advisor for the Alpha Chi chapter at Emory University, and she enjoys volunteering as an auxiliary member at Piedmont Fayette Hospital in the maternity department. Now to get started with the presentation, I'll hand it off to Liz.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Before we jump into the program, we want to take a poll of the audience to see who we have joining us today. To get a better understanding of how much you already know, we'll have a few of these polls throughout the presentation. If you could answer for us now, are you a chapter member, chapter officer, chapter advisor, or volunteer, or watching in a group with a mixture of positions? Alrighty, so it looks like we have a good amount of chapter members, so that is really awesome. It's also always great to have advisors and fraternity volunteers on webinars because they can also learn a lot. So to move on, let's see. Okay, so recruitment is a very exciting time for chapters. While it should be fun and the chapter should be excited to bring in new members, it is also an extremely serious time. This is your opportunity to recruit potential new members who will carry on your legacy in the fraternity. Remember, being a pledge in Alpha Kappa Psi is a privilege. You don't want to accept just anyone into pledging, and you should find the right individuals for your chapter. They will be the ones to uphold the core values, support the vision, and enforce policy. Remember, when you ask someone to pledge Alpha Kappa Psi, it means you have identified someone who exhibits principle-centered leadership. In order to get to the point of asking an individual to join, it takes a great deal of planning to ensure you get the intended outcome. It's a responsibility of the entire chapter to participate and tell the fraternity to bring in the best of the best. It's also important to remember that recruitment is not just an event or a series of events. It is more than a week at the beginning of academic term, but rather recruitment occurs every day. The chapter is continuously recruiting in their classes, at events, on campus, in the dining hall, and everywhere members are present through their actions and behaviors. You represent the fraternity and are always portraying an image of membership. Now, Candy is going to start with what the chapter should be doing to prepare for recruitment events.
Thanks, Liz. Before planning for the various recruitment events, the chapter must have identified recruitment goals for the academic year. In essence, you have to have an idea of where you want to go and what your goals for recruitment need to be for each academic term. For example, if your recruitment goals for the first academic term is to have 25 individuals accept their invitation to join, but only 10 do so, then you know the chapter has more work to do throughout the term. This may also signify that there are other issues or concerns within the chapter which are prohibiting individuals from wanting to join the chapter. The fraternity has created a formula to help you plan. While most chapters will calculate an annual goal, you can follow the formula each semester if you think it is helpful. The first step is to determine the current and accurate size of the chapter, followed by the number of brothers expected to leave the chapter this year. This number includes graduating members and any brothers who will resign or be on a leave of absence before next fall. As soon as you have this number, you're ready to follow the formula. Let's walk through the formula now. The number of students beginning the fall term minus the number of graduating brothers and those losing their membership equals the remaining members in the chapter. If you take the desired size of the chapter you've identified minus the remaining members, you can calculate how many individuals the chapter needs to recruit, retain, and initiate between the fall and spring pledge classes. It's also important to remember not everyone who attends a recruitment event will be the right fit for the chapter or decide they want to pledge. From historical membership data that we've collected from chapters, only 75% of students who attend a recruitment event will be extended a bid. Of the students who receive a bid, only 70% will accept the invitation, and only 80 of those who accept the bid will be initiated. Keeping these numbers in mind will help your chapter plan for the number of students you need to reach through marketing and recruiting efforts, including behaviors and actions of individual members. Once these numbers are calculated, you can start planning the actual event.
Before we jump into the different types of programming, here's another poll question for you. What types of programming does your chapter hold for recruitment? Only social events, only professional events, only educational, or a combination of formats? Go ahead and answer now. So from my experience in reading through planning guides, chapters do a wide variety of events, which is always cool to see different service events that occur or professional events, information sessions, but I definitely recommend having a good mixture of of all of the different types of events, because we want to show how great of a well-rounded organization we are, and only doing professional is great, but it doesn't show that we also have a core value of service. We also have a brotherhood core value where we do brotherhood and social events. So definitely keep in mind when planning your recruitments in the future to have a well-rounded mix. So I think we're about ready to see. Okay, so good, a combination of formats. So what type of recruitment programming do you hold? Combination of formats. So that is absolutely excellent. Okay, but as some of you have probably figured out, there's no set format the fraternity has designated for recruitment. In most cases, however, chapters should use a combination of programming options at different recruitment events. Some ideas for professional programming include informational presentations, speeches from brothers at various stages in their membership and the benefits they've gained, having alumni give testimonials, as well as inviting a professional speaker. On the social side, consider having a dinner at a local restaurant, go bowling, or have a barbecue at a local park. Another idea is to invite potential members to join you in a community service event. The ideas are endless. No matter the choice, if the event is off campus, be sure to include transportation to accommodate potential members and brothers who may not have cars. The only other stipulation is all recruitment events must be alcohol-free. Beyond that, get creative. If your chapter does something unique, share it with us in your region. We love to hear what you're doing. Like with programming, there is also no set time for the length of the process. Some chapters are only able to host a few events and be done in 1 week, whereas others will stretch it out to 2 weeks. It's up to each chapter to determine what length is appropriate for them and to stay within budget and university restrictions. If you don't have enough time or money to hold a 2-week-long process, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you're utilizing the time and resources available to your chapter. It is also recommended not to extend the process any longer than 2 weeks, as you'll start to lose excitement as a chapter and a larger percentage of prospective members.
No matter the type of programming or length your chapter chooses, you have to have somewhere to hold the events. It may seem trivial, but you want to ensure the location you pick is going to be big enough to accommodate the number of people you expect to be present. The chapter does have a fire and health safety policy in place to protect its members. All locations used must comply with local fire and health standards. This means the room you're looking to use has a large enough capacity, and if you're bringing in outside food, it doesn't conflict with any health regulations. I can't imagine anything worse than to be in a very small room filled to capacity, and you have to turn away potential new members because there isn't enough room for them to hear the presentation or interact with brothers. So be sure to plan ahead and be safe always. And to be safe, always anticipate more people attending than you think will attend or who have RSVP'd yes.
Speaking of which, Candy, food is another risky area. Many chapters utilize food as a drawing point to bring potential members to an event. I can't think of many things college students like more than free food, am I right? Having food at recruitment events is a great draw to get potential members to come and hear more about the organization. But keep in mind, many students have allergies and health restrictions. If brothers are bringing food they made themselves, make sure the brother clearly states the ingredients used. Same thing with catered food. Nobody should be unclear about what they are eating and how it was made. You don't want to take the risk of endangering a student's health because they're allergic to peanuts and didn't know you cooked your food in peanut oil. This creates a bad experience for everyone involved. Most students with health restrictions know to ask and double-check the ingredients before they eat something, but they shouldn't have to when attending one of our events.
Here's another poll question for everyone. Is it okay to have a party to get to know the prospective members while alcohol is present? Yes or no? Go ahead and answer now. Okay, let's take a look. 7% of you say yes, 93% of you say no. We mentioned it earlier in the webinar, but alcohol is not allowed at any recruitment event. I'll repeat that. Alcohol is not allowed at any recruitment event. It is also not allowed at any event where pledges are present. It doesn't matter whether the potential member or brother is of age or not. Alcohol cannot be present. There are absolutely no exceptions to this policy. I'll repeat, No event associated with the recruitment or the pledging process can have alcohol present. Keep in mind, any event where an outsider could consider it to be associated with the fraternity makes it a fraternity event. It's also important you don't allow anyone into the event if they are already intoxicated. If the event is in the evening and a few brothers decided to go out to dinner beforehand, everyone should be aware of their actions and act accordingly. If one of them had too much to drink, they should not be admitted and sent home. Allowing them admitted would be against our fraternity's alcohol and drug policy, and you don't want to take on that risk. It's better for all parties involved to stop it before something happens.
Another big area the Judiciary Committee investigates is hazing during recruitment and/or pledging. So we are clear, hazing has no place in our fraternity. Hazing can occur at any time to pledges, brothers, and potential members, and none of it is tolerated. Hazing can be both mental and physical, so it's important to understand what is and is not acceptable. Asking inappropriate questions, forcing potential members to perform tasks or do anything they're not interested in doing of their own free will is considered hazing. Even if they give permission, hazing is not acceptable and breaks Alpha Kappa Psi's risk management policy. If a potential new member, pledge, or brother ever feels uncomfortable in any way or your actions lean on the side of hazing, you need to stop. The best way to prevent it from happening is to put yourself in their shoes and consider their point of view. If it's something you wouldn't want done to you, then don't do it. Even if you wouldn't mind, if someone else would, don't do it. If you're considering running a scavenger hunt or quest of some sort during your recruitment process or even pledging, make sure to get it pre-approved by the Judiciary Committee.
Another poll for you guys. Answer on the screen now. Does your chapter host a recruitment clinic? Yes or no? Here are the results. 37% of you do, while 60% of you do not. Recruitment clinics are very crucial to ensure all members of the chapter are on the same page and understand what is and is not acceptable. If your chapter doesn't already host a clinic, you should. Every brother represents the chapter, and the actions of just one person can impact the whole chapter in terms of risk management violation or the influence they have on a potential new member. While it's important to act professionally and appropriate all year round, it's especially important when you're actively seeking out new members and all eyes are on the chapter. The chapter doesn't have to set aside any additional time for a recruitment clinic, and it can be done during a meeting, but it's important to make sure the conversation happens. Take this time to cover appropriate dress codes, when members need to be present at the events, and how many they need to attend. Different chapters have different requirements, and they can change as a chapter gets larger. Be sure to make sure everyone understands ahead of time what is expected of them so there aren't any questions during the event. When it comes to behavior, there are many unacceptable things, and not everything will be thought of ahead of time. If there's ever anything you aren't sure of whether it's okay or not, don't be afraid to ask, but use your best judgment. We'll run through some of the bigger issues we typically see in chapters for you and explain why they aren't tolerable, as well as some tips for what you should do.
Thanks, Candy. Let's start with the don'ts. Don't assume people are going to come to you. Prospective new members might be first-year students who have just moved to campus from a new city and don't know anyone, or be an older student who wants to break out of their shell. Either case, they may not feel comfortable making the first move, and that's okay. That's what pledging will teach them. Once you do get them talking, don't dominate the conversation. Learn how to get the prospective member involved and practice active listening. This is your opportunity to get to know the prospective member and see if they're a good fit for the chapter. Don't be rude, fake, or act bored, even to prospective members in whom you have no interest. Whether you are interested in them or not, they still deserve respect. This includes not interrupting or arguing with a prospective member, criticizing, or giving up on them if they say they want to wait to pledge. Don't talk poorly of your brothers, chapter, alumni, the international organization, or say anything negative about other business fraternities or other organizations. You also don't want to discuss chapter issues with a prospective member or in front of them, or apologize for the weak points in your chapter. Instead, focus on the positive attributes of membership and where the prospective member can assist in elevating the chapter. Don't group up with other chapter members and leave prospective members unattended. This isn't the time to catch up with brothers you haven't seen in a while. Your time should be focused on the potential new member. But don't stay with someone you're not interested in, as your time will be better spent mixing and interacting with multiple prospects. If you can tell the conversation is dwindling, introduce the prospective member to another brother who might have similar interests with them. Don't reveal confidential aspects of the fraternity. You should have enough information to answer general questions, but refer more in-depth questions about pledging to the fraternity educator. Lastly, don't promise prospective members anything. If you're misinformed or promise them something circumstantial, such as they'll definitely get a bid or the chapter is going to accept a certain number of individuals to join, it could put you in a risky situation if that's not the case.
That was a great list, Liz. Now let me go over some of the do's. Do make the first attempt to talk to prospective members. Introduce yourself and try to establish a common bond. Do show interest in them and make them feel comfortable. You can do this by being friendly, enthusiastic, confident, and nice. Don't forget to smile, as everyone wants to see a friendly face. Do remember prospective members' names and repeat them. There is science that shows hearing your name in conversation keeps you more engaged and feel valued. And repeating it frequently will also help you remember it. This will also help you feel comfortable if they know you consider them important enough to remember their name. Do get the prospective member involved in the conversation. Try to get an idea of why the prospective member wants to join Alpha Kappa Psi. Listen to the prospective member and find out his or her needs. Then you can let him or her know how Alpha Kappa Psi meets their needs. Stress how he or she will benefit from membership and how he or she fits in and what roles in the chapter fits their particular needs. Do reinforce prospective members' opinions and comments by talking about them and use this time to clear up doubts and uncertainties. Point out brother accomplishments wherever possible and tell the prospective member your personal story about your own experience, both as a pledge and as a member. Encourage prospective members to try other organizations to ensure they are comfortable Alpha Kappa Psi is for them. Act professional and courteous and always speak truthfully. Do treat all prospective members equally, no matter your personal feelings. Circulate and introduce the prospective member to as many brothers and other potential members as possible. Once you can tell the conversation is dwindling, introduce them to another member with whom they may share a connection. Do make sure they know the next steps. Point out any additional events coming up. Share your contact information in case they have any additional questions later. and let them know the formal process for joining, whether it is an application or an interview. Do offer directions, assistance, and even a ride if they need, and follow up with a phone call in the next few days. This shows your interest and allows you the opportunity to invite them back to another event. Lastly, know your facts about Alpha Kappa Psi. Nothing is more unprofessional than showing a potential member you don't know things about your own organization on which you're trying to sell them.
Speaking of selling the fraternity experience, recruitment clinics are also a great time to practice selling your experience as a member. Selling the fraternity is much like selling a product, and you can follow the sales process. Break into pairs and practice being the potential new member. I'm sure everyone has heard the phrase, practice makes perfect, and that certainly applies here. The more you practice interacting and selling what the fraternity has to offer, the easier it will be once recruitment is here and you're face-to-face with an interested potential member. The biggest mistake a chapter can make when selling the fraternity is to sell something that doesn't exist. If your chapter is in a bad place or has some deeper issues which need fixed, it can be hard to not want to cover them up. But you never want to sell something that isn't true. Not only does it go against our values of brotherhood and integrity, but will only lead to bigger issues and poor member retention later on. If you sell a potential new member on false pretenses, and then they come into membership only to see it's nothing as they were told, they're going to be more likely to drop, become apathetic, and encourage other potential new members to not want to join. You don't want to create a false idea in anyone's mind about what they're joining. This includes expectations of pledging, membership, and the overall financial cost. The best thing to do is be upfront about everything and really highlight everything positive about the fraternity in your chapter. If your chapter is struggling with selling, consider inviting a sales professor to walk through the sales process with you. They can help you identify areas in which you're struggling and excelling. Also consider doing a SWOT analysis on the chapter to help identify areas of strength and opportunity. This will help you when trying to sell the fraternity, as well as identify areas you can improve on as a chapter and work towards making it a strength.
If you don't know what to talk about with a potential member, think back to the things you wanted to know as a pledge. What are the costs and benefits of joining? What are some examples of programming the chapter has done? Talk about the fraternity-wide opportunities available to them, as well as the vast network of alumni. You can also keep it local and talk about the help they can get from fellow brothers with classes, networking with professors, or textbook swaps. There are many things you can talk about to get to know the potential member and get an idea of their personality and areas of interest. Be sure to stay clear of talking about alcohol, politics, religion, or any other controversial topics.
When preparing for recruitment, you also want to review your chapter's process for selecting your potential pledges. Making the final selection of who to extend a bid to is an important part of the process, and you don't want it to be overshadowed by any policies you may be breaking. You should still make the potential member feel at ease. It should be treated as a professional interview, but they shouldn't be nervous. Let them know ahead of time what time to be there, what to bring, and what to expect. Put them at ease and start off an interview by letting them know brothers may be taking notes to refer back to later, and it's nothing to be concerned about. Whether it's an application or an interview, make sure the questions you're asking are relevant. You legally cannot make a decision based off of someone's age, race, gender, or sex, so don't even ask it. It has no influence on their potential as a brother. Instead, focus questions around their interest in the organization, prior experiences, and what they think they can both gain from and offer the fraternity. One area to be cautious about is using photographs to identify potential members. As it is against the law to make a decision based on the way someone looks and their physical abilities, you could have a discrimination lawsuit on your hands. To avoid a potential lawsuit, you can have a group photograph in order to not single anyone out or simply have members jot down notes, such as if they were wearing a scarf or the color of their tie, to remember each individual. It shouldn't be a factor in the deciding process, but could help you jog your memory later if there are a great number of interviewees.
Once you've extended bids, it can be easy to get caught up in the celebration, but there's still more work to be done. Make sure to follow up with all students who attended a recruitment event. If they were interested in pledging but were not offered a bid, inform each individual of a couple of mitigating factors which led to the chapter's decision. Provide feedback and invite them to apply the following semester. If they decide they don't want to pledge this semester, also reach out to them and let them know when your next recruitment period will be. You may not know the exact dates, but let them know when to be on the lookout for your marketing. You can also let them know you're still interested in their membership and you hope they'll come back and consider joining the chapter again. At this point, I'll turn the program back over to Mackenzie.
Thank you, Liz and Candy. That was certainly a lot of information and wraps up the content portion of the program. So now it's time to hear from all of our participants listening from around the world. The program is now open to your questions and comments. As stated earlier, feel free to submit your question via the questions box, on Twitter using the hashtag AKSciChat, or you can verbally ask your question by clicking the raise hand icon. Questions will be answered in the order they are received. Please be sure to introduce yourself, including your chapter and college or university, before asking your question. At this time, we'll start with the following question, and this is going to be for Liz. Our chapter struggles with getting people interested in pledging. What advice do you have?
So I would say a couple things. The first thing is to be transparent when you're talking about pledging. Pledging isn't a secret. It's not something that we keep hidden. The pledge education program can be found online, so I would definitely stick to being transparent. Showing them how fun it can be, what the requirements are, and everything that they'll learn. And I think as the transparency becomes, more of something that you guys do every semester, people will be more excited to join because it's not some big, mysterious thing. Obviously, we do have, our rituals that you don't know what happens until you go through the ritual, but everything else shouldn't be a secret. So definitely be transparent about that and show everyone how fun it is. Another thing that I would say when you're struggling to get people interested in pledging is that, as we mentioned earlier, every single event and everything you do as a chapter is technically recruiting. So you think of professional events you have around campus that you open up to the university, service events, brotherhood events. People are watching what you're doing, and you can think of those in terms of them being recruitment events, essentially. So if you think of those as recruitment events, and you're showing everyone what you do as an organization that's fun, that's professional, that's learning, you're developing yourselves. I think if you think in that mindset, you're definitely going to get a lot more people interested in pledging. Now, that's not to say that you have to have every event open to the campus, but I definitely recommend, like, for professional events, open a few of your favorite professional events up to the campus and invite students from your classes, invite students from other organizations to come see what we do. And I think as you start to do that, people will definitely be more interested in pledging the fraternity.
Great. Thanks. Great, Liz. Great answer, Liz. This next question is going to be for Candy. We do the same type of programming for recruitment every semester, and nobody seems to have any new ideas. Where can we get some more ideas?
That's a great question. A couple of things come to mind. You've got great resources. I think Alpha Kappa Psi has an incredibly talented brotherhood. Talk to each other. That's really important. Maybe there was an idea that was used in the past for a brother that they thought really worked. Always go back and tap into that great resource. Another thing that comes to mind is to tap into the resource of the chapter resource coordinator. Liz is the one for my area, and I'm always open and encouraging the chapter brothers for Alpha Chi to reach out to her, because she has a lot of great ideas that she's learned from the different regions that she works with. And there are other resource coordinators as well, and they have great ideas. Another thought is to utilize the inter-chapter officer that you might have, because they can reach out to the other chapters in your region and get great ideas. Remember, this is the same resource that you're going to use, or this is the same skill, that you're going to use in the business world. So tap into the network of resources that you have, and don't feel like you have to have all of the ideas in-house. Just because ideas may not be coming from the e-board or the brothers in the chapter, tap into all of the resources. Alpha Kappa Psi is a huge organization. There are plenty of ideas out there.
Great answer, Candy. The next question comes from Patrick Gill, and he wants to know, what do you suggest is a good policy regarding legacies? Liz, what do you have for that?
So I've actually asked this question before, and Alpha Kappa Psi doesn't have a specific policy in regards to legacies. And for any of you who are listening today who don't understand what it means to be a legacy, it essentially is someone whose parent or sibling, aunt, uncle, someone in the family that has been a member of Alpha Kappa Psi or previously joined another chapter. So like I said, we don't have a formal policy regarding legacies. So, it's not like in the social Greek setting where sometimes you extend an extra courtesy to them. Consider everyone having the same opportunity to join the fraternity. So, that's essentially, I would say that, is that everyone has the same opportunity. It would be great to hear about their family members' experience, the people who are making them a legacy, essentially, where they joined and whatnot. But also make sure that Alpha Kappa Psi is the right fit for them, because a lot of times, sometimes parents might pressure, their child to join the fraternity. So I would definitely make sure that the fraternity is the right fit for them. And of course, we would love to have them if it is. But if it's not, I would definitely encourage them to find an organization that is a fit for them.
Great answer. This next question is going to be for both Candy and Liz. It's from Brandon Spack, and said, our chapter has had trouble determining the optimal number of members to recruit. What kind of advice do you have for tackling this?
So I will go ahead and take this answer this first. So you're having trouble determining the optimum number of members to recruit. So here's a couple things that go into this number. The fraternity has goals in regards to membership every year, as all businesses have goals to achieve. So part of this number, and I have some background here, is that the fraternity is asking at potentially a minimum 30 people are initiated into your chapter. And so part of that number comes from our goals, but part of that number is because the regional director who assigns you that goal believes that you can achieve 30 people. Now, I also know that if you sit comfortably at around 20 to 25 people being initiated every semester, then maybe trying to go above 30, 35, 40, you're going to start compromising on the quality of members or quality of pledges that you receive. So if you feel comfortable at 20 to 25 and you're not sure that that 30 goal is really going to fit well with your chapter, I would definitely have a conversation with your chapter advisor and explain why this goal, a goal of 30 is not going to work for you. If 20 and 25 is comfortable for you, then I would definitely have that conversation with your advisor. But at the same time, the advisor believes that you could get to 30. So that's 5 more quality students on your campus. So that roughly translates into, getting about 10 to 15 more students at your recruitment events and really driving that quality from the quantity of students that you're reaching out to. Candy, do you have anything to add to this?
You kind of tapped into what I was going to say. I think that if it seems like it might be a little difficult to do, speak with your chapter advisor. They may have ideas, and again, that regional director did not suggest that number truly if they didn't think that you could achieve it. And so reaching out to them as well might be a really good way to kind of help resolve that issue.
Good, really good answers from both of you guys. Our next question comes from Logan Fisk, and it'll be for both of you as well. He wants to know, how would you approach an individual that has shown up intoxicated to a recruitment event that's at a public venue? We've had this happen in the past that many people have enjoyed, but fear because there was an intoxicated individual not to have that kind of event anymore.
Let me ask, is this intoxicated individual, is this a brother or is this a possible pledge? Because if it is a brother, I think that needs to be handled totally different than if it were a pledge. If it is a brother, then they should be aware that that is simply not tolerated, and immediately a brother should escort that intoxicated brother away from the event and make sure that they get home safely. And there should be an immediate call to that chapter advisor so that they are aware, and then that chapter advisor can advise you on how to approach that person. If it is a pledge, I think that is a great opportunity to talk more about the ideals and the integrity and the values of Alpha Kappa Psi, and to let them realize, or to point out to them, that that's not something that we allow or tolerate our brothers to do. And in the same light, if Alpha Kappa Psi is a fraternity that they want to seek membership of, that's not something that we would tolerate, and to talk to them more. I think that could be a very uncomfortable conversation, but I think it is a necessary one. Liz, do you have anything to add?
So on top of what Candy has already said, I think if this person that shows up to the event is a non-member, so it's not a pledge and it's not a brother, I think there needs to be certain controls in place. So when you're having an event, have someone stand outside the door and greet individuals and welcome them to the event, and kind of keep an eye on individuals. And if it's an environment, or if it's a time of day where your event is at night, and it could be potentially after people go out and have drinks, I would definitely have that person at the entrance to the event just saying, hey, how are you? And kind of gauge how the person is. And if you can visibly tell that this person is intoxicated, then I would definitely have that person, maybe the chapter advisor that's present, the president, have a conversation with that individual to the side and say, like, hey, thanks for coming to our event. And kind of talk them through the values of Alpha Kappa Psi, and politely turn them away, because we don't want to put ourselves in a risky situation by having an intoxicated non-member of the fraternity come to an event. It can put us in a lot of risk, a lot of liability. So having a very nice, polite conversation, a short one, talking about the core values of the fraternity, and asking them maybe to come to another event. But, I just don't want to put our chapters and put our members at that risk of having something happen because someone came intoxicated and we permitted them into our event.
That's a really good point, Liz.
Yeah, it's great answers, and I'm glad you guys addressed both sides, whether it was a pledge or a brother or even someone outside. All right, the next question we have is going to be that a lot of our brothers get caught up on objections that potential new members have and don't know what to say. How can we plan for them and prepare our chapter with good answers?
So I'll go ahead and start this one off. I remember from when I was a VP of membership, we actually went over common objections. So objections such as, it's too expensive, or I don't have time, or, well, I don't want to join a fraternity because I know what fraternities are like. So those are some standard objections that we always get during recruitment. And the best way to combat those, or to counter, I should say, those objections, is to practice responses to those objections. So the Road to Brotherhood has an excellent section about recruitment, countering objections, and how to walk through that process of, okay, well, sure, you can't financially afford it, but how much do you think it costs? And what does that look like as a daily investment? Because especially as we talk about finances, we want to talk that it's an investment. Any money that you pay towards a fraternity, it's actually an investment in your future. And it truly is. So breaking it down on a day-to-day basis, like, sure, it's $150 a semester, but if you break it down, it's $1 a day. So definitely use the Road to Brotherhood as a resource, specifically the section about securing the future. It gives a ton of great recruitment ideas. Also, some future e-learnings will walk you through some common objections that happen during the recruitment process, so I definitely recommend taking a peek at those. And just practice with your brothers. If we talked about having a recruitment clinic earlier in the presentation. So just do one during your chapter meetings that is about overcoming objections, and make it difficult. Say, okay, well, I can't afford it. Oh, well, how much do you think it costs? And make it difficult for each other, because then you will totally be prepared when you're doing that tabling session and you have someone that just has every objection coming from the left and right, and you can address them. And then, well, why wouldn't you join? This is a great opportunity. It's a great investment. So, Candy, do you have anything to add?
I was going to speak about the recruitment clinic, that's a really good time to prepare for that, and that the Road to Brotherhood, that document has just really been a lifesaver for so many questions and that I've been asked, and those that I didn't even anticipate. And I think that you can always make your response personal. If it is a matter of money or whatever the issue is, you might have experienced that as well when you decided or when you were looking to become a pledge, and share with them how you resolved that issue. I think it makes it a little bit personal, and it begins to create that bond that exists between brothers.
Great answers. The next question is going to be for you, Candy. We don't have a very big budget for recruitment. So what are some low-cost ways that we can make it exciting?
Oh, wow. I know so often when I was pledging, as well as when I work with the Brothers of Alpha Chi, there are many things that might come to mind that you think, oh, we just can't afford that. And you know what? That's okay, because there are a lot of low-budget ideas. Don't forget, and you may say, well, she continues to say this, but I don't want to minimize the resource that the coordinators have. Again, they work together very closely as a team, and they have ideas that you can put to use. In addition to that, ask the chapter advisor. There may have been low-cost things that they did when they were pledging that you haven't thought of. And also, we have a lot of our brothers are also members of other social fraternities, and they may have implemented ideas that you want to implement into the recruitment process as well. Liz, do you have any other ideas?
Well, to go off of what you just said about social fraternities, a lot of times when you partner with a social fraternity, they will have a budget for events. So if you think about it, if you partner with them and they have a budget, it cuts your amount of spending in half. And it's also a recruitment event, because I know a lot of individuals in Alpha Kappa Psi, they're also in social fraternities. And so hosting an event with a social fraternity could end up getting you quite a few recruits. So definitely consider splitting the cost if you can, by partnering up with another organization and showing them, what we're all about. But also, you may think that you don't have a lot of money in your budget, but also consider requesting funding from the university. A lot of universities have, like SGA, student government. The university has money for organizations. So maybe, fundraising didn't go so well, donations aren't, it's not time to ask for donations yet. Definitely consider requesting money from the university. So while this may still not be a massive event that costs thousands of dollars, even $50, $100 could get you some snacks for an event, and it's just a networking session, and you have light refreshments. So definitely exercise all your options. You can still have really fun, low-cost events that will definitely get people interested in joining.
Really good answers. All right, if there aren't any more questions, this is going to be the last question of the night. It's going to be that nobody in the chapter is interested in recruitment, and we spend the majority of the time just talking to one another. What can we do to make it fun again?
So first of all, I would say, what are the events that you're doing in your chapter, and why does no one want to partake in these events? So surveying your members is going to be great for generating new ideas. And as Candy said earlier, you don't always have to recreate the wheel. So maybe you're always doing the same standard resume workshop, and brothers have had their resumes critiqued every semester for the past 3 semesters, and they're looking for something new and fun. So take it to the next level. Instead of doing resumes, do a LinkedIn workshop with a photo shoot opportunity for headshots, and make it fun in that way. Do something new and creative. Maybe that'll get the brothers more engaged. And when the brothers are having more fun and they're enjoying their experience in Alpha Kappa Psi, other people are going to see that, because remember, people are always watching what we're doing, and they're going to want to join the fraternity. And if you're at an event and you see that you're just talking to other brothers, you're not really getting to know any potential new members, you kind of don't know what to say, may not have been the best day, tag team with one of your brothers and ask them to walk up to a potential new member with you, or walk up to a group of them and help each other with a conversation. And make recruitment, just make recruitment fun. It doesn't always have to be the most serious, it shouldn't be intimidating. It should be a time where we're excited to welcome potential new members into our organization. So really focus on that. Candy, do you have anything to add?
I really can't add anything. That was absolutely everything I was thinking.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. So well, thank you to all of our participants and callers today for your great questions and comments. For any follow-up questions or conversation, feel free to contact either of the panelists using the information provided on the screen. I want to thank Liz and Candy again for their great insight and expertise. Finally, upcoming programs are listed on the AKSI.org website. We have updated our e-learning videos on recruitment, and they will be available soon. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please